Welcome back to Mr. DuPage's classroom. This lesson is for my Algebra 2 class. It is 5.3, Day 3 notes. In this lesson, we're going to determine the LCD, or least common denominator, of each problem. We're not actually going to solve all these problems. We're just going to determine what is my least common denominator. Alright, the first step to all these problems is we're going to see if we can factor out our denominator at all, and if we might be able to cancel out anything from the numerator real quick before we determine our LCD. So first, let's look at 3x minus 1. Well, 3x minus 1, is there any way to factor that at all? In this case, there would not be. There's no GCF. How about x plus 1? Again, there is not anything I can do there because it is just a binomial. There is no GCF. Okay? So what I'm going to do from here then, since this is fully factored, is I'm going to go ahead and find out what's in my denominator on the left. And does it match anything from the denominator on the right? All right. So 3x minus 1, does it match anything with x plus 1? In this case, it does not. 3x minus 1 and x plus 1 are completely different. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to underline anything that is different. So then my LCD is just going to be this 3x minus 1 times my x plus 1. Okay? So let's look at number 2. Number 2, I have 5x squared plus 20x. 5x squared plus 20x. I want to see if I can factor that. I can factor 5x squared minus 20x by taking out an GCF of 5x. That will leave me with x plus 4. Now that I have x plus 4, I need to put my other fraction in there. So minus 7 over 5x. From here, what I will do is look for anything that they actually share. Well, so I have 5x times x plus 4, and I have 5x, which means that they share this 5x. So my LCD, anything they share, I'm only going to multiply once. So I'd have 5x. I'm going to underline anything they do not share, so x plus 4. So my LCD would be 5x times x plus 4. All right. Let's keep moving here. On to number 3. I have x squared minus 1 first. Can I factor x squared minus 1? I can. So I'm going to rewrite my first fraction. X squared minus 1 factors into x plus 1 and x minus 1 because it is the difference of two squares. Now for my second fraction, I'm going to look at x plus 1. Can I factor that at all? There is no way to factor x plus 1. So I'm just going to rewrite my fraction again. Okay. Now, again, I'm going to go ahead and circle anything that is the same. So x plus 1 is the same as x plus 1. So when I write my LCD, I only have to use x plus 1 once. I'm going to underline anything they do not share. So x minus 1. My LCD would be x plus 1 times x minus 1. All right. Now to number 4. Looking at 27x and 9x to the third. If you remember from our previous unit how we were able to break those up to see what they multiply, or what their multiples are. What I would do then is 1 over. I can't factor 27x, but I can break it up into 9 times 3 times x, right? Plus, I have 1 over 9x to the third, so 1 over 9x to the third I can break up into 9 times x times x times x, or we could write this second x times x as x squared. That is completely up to you if you want to write all those x's out, or if you just want to keep it as an x squared. The reason why I made this x just a single x is because I had a single x here. So I'm going to circle everything they share, which is 9 and x. I'm going to underline everything that is different. So for my LCD, I will end up with 9, it's shared, right, times x just once because it's shared. Now I need my 3, so times 3, and I need my x squared, so times x squared. Here I'm just going to multiply everything together, so 9 times 3 is 27. X times x squared would be x to the third. Okay? So my LCD is 27x to the third. On to number 5. Here's where we have to be a little bit careful. We have not been crossing anything out in 1, 2, 3, or 4 because I never had anything in my numerator that could cancel out anything in my denominator. On number 5, I will. Okay? So let's look at number 5. I have my first fraction, 10 over 15x to the 7th. How can I break up 10? 5 times 2. How can I break up 15? 5 times 3. Now, let's figure out how to break up our x's. The first fraction I have is x to the 7th. The second fraction I have is x to the 5th in my denominator, which means I'm going to have an x to the 5th that is shared. Well, I had 7 x's to start with. I took away 5, which means there's 2 left. Okay? I'm going to subtract that. My second fraction, I'm looking at just my second fraction now. What can I do with 10? Well, it can be 5 times 2. What can I do with 25? 25x to the 5th. That can be 5 times 5. Again, let's think about how we can break up our x's. In my first fraction, I had an x to the 5th. In this second fraction, I have an x to the 5th. So let's just keep it as x to the 5th. If you would like to break those up into x times x times x times x times x, you can, but you don't need to. So before I actually start circling things here, what I'm going to do is cancel out what I can from the numerator and denominator. So in the first fraction, these 5's would cancel. In the second fraction, these 5's would cancel. That would leave me with 2 over 3 times x to the 5th times x squared and 2 over 5 times x to the 5th. So what I'm going to do here is circle what we share. Okay? And underline what we do not. So my LCD, I'm going to take x to the 5th first because that's what they share, times 3 times x squared times 5. Well, 3 times 5 will get me 15. X to the 5th times x squared would get me x to the 7th. That would be my LCD. All right. On to problem number 6. Notice my denominators, x plus 3 and x minus 2. There is no way to factor either one of those, which means I can just underline x plus 3. I can underline x minus 2. My LCD will be x plus 3 times x minus 2. Okay. On to number 7. Same situation. X minus 3 cannot be factored, so I can underline that. X minus 1 cannot be factored, so I can underline that. My LCD would be x minus 3 times x minus 1. On to the back. Again, I'm going to look at my first fraction only real quick. I have 5 over 2 times x squared. Is there any way that I can break up 5 and 2 to get rid of anything? Well, in this case, there is no way I can do that. But what I can do is break up 2x squared into 2 times x. What about this 4 over 3x? Is there any way to break up 4 and 3x so I could cancel anything? Again, there is not, but I can break up 3 into 3 times x. So now I can circle what they share, underline what they do not, and find my LCD. They share an x, so I'll start with an x. 2 is the first thing they do not share, so multiply by 2. The x is the next that they do not share, and the 3 is the last that they do not share. So my LCD will be 3 times 2, which is 6, x times x, which is x squared. Okay? On to number 9. Can I factor x plus 3? No, I cannot. Can I factor x squared minus 9? Yes, I can. So I'm going to rewrite my fractions. The first fraction, there's nothing I can do with it, so it'll be 3 over x plus 3 minus. 1 over. How can I factor x squared minus 9? I'm looking at x squared minus 9 now. That would factor into x plus 3, x minus 3. I'm going to circle anything they share and underline anything they do not. So my LCD, the first thing that they share is the x plus 3. So I'll take x plus 3 times what they do not share, which is x minus 3. And I am done. Okay? On to 10. Again, I'm going to factor everything as far as I can. I'll cancel anything from the numerator that I can cancel with the denominator before I try to find my LCD. So the first thing I'm going to look at is this x over 4x squared plus 20x. Can I factor 4x squared plus 20x? Well, I can. So I'll write x over. What can I do with 4x squared plus 20x? I can take out a GCF of 4x. That will leave me with x plus 5. Okay? Now that I've worked through my first fraction, let's look at our second fraction, which is 4 over x. There's no way to cancel anything there, so I'm going to leave it as 4 over x. Now let's look again at our new first fraction, which is here. Is there anything I can cancel between the numerator and denominator? Well, I have x and x. I'm going to, now that I know that I'm fully factored, this would be left with a 1, right? Now that I know that I'm fully factored, I've canceled anything I can, I will circle anything that they share. Well, is there a 4 in the second fraction? In the denominator only. There's no 4 over here anywhere, right? So that means that they do not share a 4. How about x plus 5? Is there an x plus 5 in this denominator? No, there's not. And obviously there will not be an x. So I'm actually going to underline everything, which will leave me with an LCD of 4 times x plus 5 times x. How would we normally write that? We would write it as 4x times x plus 5. So for the steps to find my LCD, what I'm going to do is fully factor each fraction. I'm going to see if there's anything from my numerator or denominator that I can cancel. And then I'm going to circle anything that is shared between my denominators. I will underline anything that is not shared. Then I will multiply what is shared. I'll only use that once, times everything that is not shared to find my LCD. If you have any questions over this, please make sure you come in and see me. If you are still struggling with GCF, please make sure you come in and see me, or any other form of factoring. We really need to have some one-on-one time if you are still struggling with those things. Okay? The whole point of why we're going to use LCD is we will next be adding and subtracting using unlike denominators. So we have to find their least common denominator in order to be able to add and subtract those successfully. Well, thank you very much for watching the video. Again, if you have any questions, please make sure you come in and see me. Otherwise, have a nice day.